Hey, this is the World Advice Channel. So today I want to give some advice to people when it comes to this particular topic, which of course is referring to trends. As you can see from the title of this video, the Stanley Cup trend. So when it comes to Stanley Cups, what I want to talk about today is aside from of course the fact Stanley Cups is go into further detail explaining the truth about Stanley Cups and how it relates to trends, and even a little bit about is the Stanley Cup even worth it? So, anyway, that's my intro, and that's what I have to say. So, let's get started. So, when it comes to the first question, obviously about Stanley Cups and what it has to say about trends, is that when it comes to trends, the best advice to really give when it comes to things like trends is realize that the truth about trends in the first place is that trends are simply a waste of time to really put too much time and effort into thinking about and working on. Regardless of what generation you're from, especially if you're from my generation, like people born at a certain stage, like I was born in the mid 1990s. So obviously, I grew up with trends like Pokemon, you know, Yu Gi Oh!, Beyblade, and all that other type of stuff, you know, all that type of stuff. So I can definitely tell you a thing or two about trends. And the thing about them is they're useless to follow because at the end of the day, you know, start following them, you start doing what everyone else is doing, and then and then when it actually you start really getting, and then when it starts, it seems like everyone's really getting into it and you start getting into it, even if you might have not had much interest, then out of nowhere it says, oh, everyone's lost interest in it. And then they move on to something else and you put all this time and effort into it, and people have moved on with their life. And when it comes to something like Stanley Cups, which is more collectible than a game, like the previous examples I mentioned, it's no different. It's like anything in the world. It's just hype. It's cool now, but then eventually it grows out of style, and you just wasted your time getting a whole bunch of things to fit in, and it's just like, well, what's the point now anymore? You know, it's just simply a waste of time. And the best thing to do in life is to never go out of your way to follow trends, okay? Now, of course, when it comes to life, you'll have to a certain extent, kind of keep up with the world. Like if it's 2024, or even 25 or 26, whatever, you're not going to be dressing like in clothing you would have literally worn like the 1990s. You're going to want to be dressed up like someone who looks like they're you know, like it's 2024, or be like those people who still wear like Echo and like Rockaware clothing, and oh my god, and even like Fubu jackets that were like popular in like the 2000s, which used to be cool and trendy, and now you just see homeless people all the time wearing that stuff all the time, or and this and that. So obviously you don't want to be like those people. You don't want to look like them, who obviously got those things from shelters and all that type of stuff. So you don't want to be like them, but at the same time, you want to look like you want to keep up basically, but not too much. And whether it's clothing or anything in life, that's the way I see things. Follow up to a certain extent, but don't go out of your way to follow it too much. Because when you follow trends, it's just impossible. Because then you think it's trendy now, then something else becomes trendy, and then something else becomes trendy, and it just puts you in a cycle of misery. If you're not, you always have to kind of keep up and this and that, and you know um and it just makes you miserable for no real reason, especially being in this world and knowing all the situations and stuff that goes on in the world and all the things that happen to a lot of people in the world. To really waste your time to be miserable over simply not following trends is, or I should say following trends, is such a waste of time. Like life has so much pleasure, it has so much joy it has to offer. Even when you walk outside sometimes in life and you have no problems, the and you're just walking outside and just reflecting on life, it feels so nice. It feels so good. It's so good. It's so enjoyable. Life has so much to offer, and to waste your time just going out of your way to follow trends that are going to be popular one moment and not going to be that popular the next moment is just a waste of time. So that's what I pretty much have to say about it. Because no matter how you think you're up to date with things, it's only a matter of time before you're no longer up to date, and and something that you thought was cool now was is like a few months old now, and now no one cares anymore. And that's simply the truth of the matter. And that's the reason why why it's not good to follow trends. The Stanley Cups is a perfect example of that. Don't follow it. Don't follow it. In the end of the day, it's a lose-lose situation. It's just like trying to be popular in school. Do I waste my time going out of my way to be popular and stressing myself out and going through all this shit and trying to have to forcing myself to talk all the time and blah 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 blah? Or do I just simply focus on just getting a decent average amount of friends? Without having to deal with all the stress and even, of course, the possibility I become popular and then a situation happens and now no one wants to talk to me at all. It just brings up the question, why didn't I just simply not try to be popular in the first place? Um, it's the same thing here. It's no different. It's just best to try not to be trendy versus trying too hard to be trendy and just feeling more miserable and terrible because people who are trendy call you out and attack you for not being up to the times versus being someone who never played along with the game in the first place. And when you don't play along with the game in the first place, to be quite honest with you, the truth of the matter is, um, the truth of the matter is, it saves you a lot of stress and a lot of pain. And they can't really say anything because you never follow along in the first place. So it's the same thing here, whether it's school popularity or a Stanley Cup, trends, whatever you like to say, it's the same thing. So that's my first point. Now, to the second point that I think is also important is also, of course, simply down to the fact that when it comes to talking about the Stanley Cup, is that it's simply like any trend. It's not really the greatest. There's way better things out there. Just like Beats by Dre headphones back in the day, everyone hyped it up as being like having like the best sound imaginable and this and that. And but if you did even a decent amount of research, you realize there's much better headphones and stuff. And the Stanley Cup is no different. It's exactly the same thing. It's all just hype, this and that, and then you use it and you realize, oh god, this shit sucks. And there's much better things out there. It's just simply that they put a lot of time and effort into better, good quality marketing. That's why the Stanley Cup is so popular. There's so much hype around it. But at the end of the day, the production is terrible. Everything from that fake video where the car got burned down and you saw the Stanley Cup in it, to the fact that they have done tests and it shows that the Stanley Cup is not as efficient as people make it out to be. So that's the truth about Stanley Cup. It's not worth it. It's a waste of time in any way, shape, or form. It's not worth it in terms of quality, and it's just also something that just burns you out when it comes to things like obviously trying to fit in or trends and all that stuff. It's a waste of time. It's useless and it should just be forgotten. And that's everything what I have to say. If you like this video and likes videos like this, thumbs this video up and hit the subscribe button. And that's all I have to say, and simply put it, later.